Old World, Florida. Dr. Narco Longo.
Brought to you by the Florida Department of Magic. Welcome to Florida, baby.
Florida is the original Garden of Eden.
Florida has the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world.
Florida oranges are the golden apples of mythology. A race of giant men once roamed this peninsula. The Smithsonian can suck my balls.
Florida is littered with many ancient megalithic ship anchors, known as Saxor stones.
I'm bringing Saxor back.
Noah's Ark was constructed out of gopher wood. Gopher wood only grows one place in the world, Florida.
Occult, Florida.
Oh, hang on.
Narco Longo.
Remix. Yellow. Happy Thursday, everyone. What's up, my redheads? What's up, my gingers? We was gingers and shit. All right,
We was homunculi and shit.
for real.
Oh man.
So, guys, let us know if our audio's good here. Let us know how the levels are. Especially
Testicles testing.
if
Yeah, make sure I'm not too low for you guys.
testes 1 2 1 2. All right. But yeah, guys, we're talking red hair tonight. Red hair, a mystical, magical topic, a controversial topic a little bit, maybe in some areas. But red hair is a fascinating topic. Okay. You know, things that are rare by themselves are kind of interesting and fascinating. And red hair is one of those things, right? It's rare. It's like being left handed. It's like being, what else? It's like a step away from being albino, like it's like being left-handed is weird, being redheaded is weird, albino is like a step past that. But all things that are unique are kind of fascinating novelty. But red hair has mystical, magical implications. So I have a very good book, pretty short book, an interesting book called The Esoteric History of Red Hair. I think the author's name is something Scott. And that book's pretty fascinating. It just kind of scratches the surface, but it covers a lot of ground in a very small package. And that book got me even more fascinated about red hair. So, my family's Celtic and, British and Germanic for the most part, mostly Celtic. So I don't have any redheads in my family, but, it's associated with being Celtic, Irish, Scottish. But that's really only, like I said, that's only scratching the surface. There's so much more to say about red hair, the occult significance of red hair, and all that. So we're going to touch on witchcraft, religion, all this crazy stuff. But before we get too far into it, let's say hi to Juan. What's up, Juan?
What's up, bro? How you been?
I'm chilling. Everything good? Everything good over there?
Everything's pretty good. Just trying to get everything situated. And yeah, I'm excited, bro. Excited to talk about this. I don't really know a lot about red hair. I did dig up some alchemical stuff that we can get into. And I'm excited to dive in, bro.
Hell
How was
yeah.
your day?
Doing pretty good. Chilling. Just worked on my book, worked on this presentation a little bit, made a little slideshow.
How's that coming along? Are you anywhere near being done or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been close to done for pretty long time now, and I just keep adding more. So it's good to be my own boss in this case. I don't have any deadline or anything. I passed the point that I wanted to get at as far as like how many pages I was going to type, and I'm still adding to it. So
That was my issue too when I started a homunculus book where new things kept happening in the mainstream and you want to add that to the book, right? And you find out more information, and by the time you know, you're so overwhelmed with so much information that you don't even know what to do anymore. So
yeah,
I feel you on that of like starting it, getting to a point and just adding and adding and adding. I mean, you could always all the extra stuff, you could always also write another book,
edition.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, you could all another edition is always an option, sequel, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, people can stay tuned. We'll have some updates on that coming up. But we, our publishing company, we just actually uh, got a physical copy of our newest book, uh, Confessions of an English opium eater.
Yeah, I was
And
talking to your brother this past week because I'm gonna have him on soon. Yeah, told me you guys were pretty close.
yeah.
He's been working on the book and stuff. So
Thomas De Quincey. So guys, go keep an eye out on Gallo Glass Publishing to get a hold of one of those. But not what we're talking about tonight. So what are we talking about tonight? Red hair. Okay, Juan's got his red hat on. That actually ties in to it a little bit. And the red hat, the redhead, I mean, redhead's not necessarily hair. Where my Moorish brothers and sisters out there, my Moorish scientists, they know about the red hat too. And there's an interesting thing about the Hopi prophecy. Have you ever heard about that? The Hopi prophecy with the red hat?
no, I was gonna ask you: is there anyone in the Trump family that has red hair?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, they're more like German, Dutch.
They don't. Prominently having blonde hair, brown or dark hair. Because right tonight we're gonna get into a little bit of the conspiracies about people. You know, I've always heard that gingers have no souls, almost like if, and it links to the occult. We'll get into it later, where maybe they do. I'm not saying that. No disrespect to any gingers, but that's just like it's a meme, right? It's a meme where they say that gingers have no souls, and I have some interesting connections to that. But yeah, the Trump family, it's interesting that they went with a red hat, and in alchemy you have the red king. So again, we can get into some of the stuff later on.
Yeah, man. Well, I've got a little PowerPoint that we can go through, and there's definitely going to be some other stuff that's not in there that we're going to cover. But the main thing I wanted to start off with was a little article, because we were actually, I think we were talking about this last week when we were talking about elongated skulls, and a little article. I don't think we got to talk about it a lot last week, but it's a great segue into our topic this week. Now, red hair, people say, well, hang on, what does that have to do with Florida? You know, what the hell does that have to do with Florida? Well, believe it or not, it actually has a little bit to do with Florida.
Uh-oh.
What's up?
That article, dude, it sounds kind of spicy.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, my,
Yeah, hold on, dude. People keep talking about my mic. When I listened back to the video the first night, my audio sounded fine. Can you hear me fine, Longo?
I can hear you fine, but I don't have anything to compare it to.
What the hell? Hold on. Go ahead, keep talking.
All right.
Let's see if I can hear myself on here. Man, I'm plenty loud. If you can't hear me, it just means you're gay.
Yeah, you're tripping, guys. That's facts.
Yeah, I'm super loud on my phone, so you guys got some screwed up stuff on your end.
For real.
They're just trolling me. They're probably just trolling.
They are, I think.
Yeah, I think they are.
Well, here, guys, this is a pretty cool article from 1934. And it's just one article. But the headline reads, White race in Florida may predate Indian. And this comes from the Miami Herald, September 1st, 1934. Excavations near Silver Springs revealed data on mysterious race. Hang on, Juan. We're catching like a feedback or something. Momentarily. It's okay now, but
It's me messing with my settings, trying to make sure come out. Is it there now?
it sounds okay to me. All right. Mysterious race of mound builders of from 2,000 to 5,000 years ago. Prospect that women were buried alive with warrior mates seen. Now, we could read this whole thing. There's a lot to say, but I want to focus on this part. And again, we're not saying that, the whites were the only one living here. This article is basically trying to say some whites made it here. Some of them came here before Columbus. So, hey, clickbait has always been clickbait, you know. Headlines were the old clickbait, They had to get your attention. But there is basis for the supposition of a white race in America before Columbus. Aside from Viking and Peruvian Inca legends, are the people described by Lucas Vazquez de Ayllón in 1520 as the Duhar, occupying a country of the same name along the Florida coast. He described them as exceedingly light in color, of gigantic stature, and having abundant hair. They may have been identical with the Ais and Tequesta, rude and fierce tribes inhabiting the east coast below Cape Canaveral, whose language was different and who were distinct from the Timucua and Calusa, holding the remainder of the peninsula. The Indians themselves had a legend of a tribe of redheads, known in their own language as rabbit men, residing along the Texas coast. The Florida remains appear the oldest found so far in the Western Hemisphere. Yada 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 yada. So the rest of the article, they go on to explain how there was like two species, almost like two completely separate races living side by side in Florida, and how one of them had a smooth skull that was more full, like a larger cranial capacity, and the other type was more brutish with a big brow ridge, almost like a Neanderthal looking thing. And that, yeah, they were, mating, reproducing together, and there were clear like racial distinctions in Florida. And so, yeah, that's something that piqued my interest because we always hear about the Lovelock giants, right, in Nevada. Not many people hear about these legends of red-haired Indians in the southeast United States. That was the thing, you know? So now there's a king that was associated with that tribe called Datha or Datha, Data or Dada, maybe. Dada,
And that was the Miami Herald. What part of Florida were they talking about?
They're talking about Florida, but the people who wrote this article, they probably didn't know too much of their history because Florida back then was, in 1520, South Carolina was Florida too,
Gotcha.
So he's kind of talking about the whole southeast United States, but they used to do slave raids up and down the Atlantic coast, and they would try and hunt giants because the giant slaves they could get more money for at auction. So they would try and catch the giants from Florida, and some of them between Florida and South Carolina had reddish hair or a chestnut, very light brown colored hair. And
So
that's where we get
giant hunters. They're
some.
pretty much, because here's the thing. We were talking on the phone earlier. What exactly would be a giant? For the time.
Mhm.
You had mentioned six. Did you say 6'7"? 6'7".
6.
7. Yeah. Did you said 6'7" on the phone earlier? 6'5", something like that.
Yes. So well,
What would be
here's
a giant?
yeah. So a giant to me, I've got a little trick. Okay, Genesis 6:4 is the one that mentions giants. So anything taller than 6'4", I think's a giant. All right, but that's a silly little like rule of thumb.
I like
Uh,
that.
Genesis 6:4 KJV. So
Yeah, I'm looking it up now.
when I'm standing next to someone who's 6'4", they don't seem that much taller. But someone who's 6'5", they cross into like a whole nother territory. It's like
But you're like 5'9", right, bro?
something like that. Yeah. Something like
Genesis
that.
6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So they were busting nuts and the daughters of men, creating Nephilim hybrid races. And I've always interpreted this differently. I've always, because it could be interpreted as, when they came in to the daughters of men, whatever was more like a parasitic or a possession sort of thing. Because we know that the virgin birth is a thing, right? We've seen Rosemary's Baby, where they do rituals to invoke the 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 son of the devil, et cetera, et cetera. So why wouldn't they be able to do the same thing in these times? In the old world, as you would say. So I've always interpreted as that, where they were more parasitic, and maybe they infected and they did something to their chemistry, to their body, and procreated that way. I don't know.
Yeah, dude. We're going to get into some of the kind of theories about where does red hair come from? Like, is it giant DNA? Is it Nephilim DNA? It's always been a mystery, but, you know, all right, well, whatever. Here, let's go through this little slideshow I've got. Um, Hang on one sec.
Because according to the AI on Google, red hair originally came from a genetic mutation in the MC1R gene that is widely believed to have emerged in Central Asia,
Yep.
among ancient populations roughly 20,000 to 50,000 years ago.
I don't know.
MC1R mutation?
Sounds like fake news to me. But all right, guys. Wait, no, fuck. This is elongated skulls. What the hell? Wrong. Wrong. Wrong presentation. All right, here.
We can do freckles next, right?
The occult significance of red hair. Okay. Here is your average kind of distribution map for where red hair can be found in the world. Of course, we're zoomed in on Northern Europe here because that's mainly where it's found, with some exceptions. But most people know when they think of red hair, you think of Irish or Scottish, right? That's 99% of the world, knows that association. And you see that in the map here. The red zones, the bright red is over 10%. Over 10% of people there have red hair, either on their hair, their beard, or their body. And it's pretty much only the Celtic people, northern British Isles, with one extra hotspot over there in Russia. And I think they're called like the Uzdemer people. Let me check that.
I wish I knew how to spell it. Is it the Udmurt?
Udmurts. The Udmurts. The Udmurts. So the Udmurts are this people in Russia
The meadow people.
who look very Celtic. They are very red-haired. Their facial features look very Celtic too. They don't look very Russian or Asian. But the Udmurts, the Mudmurts, if we want to be real mean to them, those mudbloods over there, right? The Muggles, but the Udmurts that's that kind of pocket over there on the right in Russia. All right, moving on. Celts and Brits. Okay. Again, most people are kind of familiar with this already. The Celts have the most red hair in the world. Between 2 and 6% of all Northern Europeans have red hair. but especially the Celtic. So 13% of Scottish people, 10% of Irish people, 10% of Welsh people, and 4% of English. Now, believe it or not, do you know why Ireland there is lower than Scotland? Because Ireland has taken in far more, to my knowledge, Ireland's taken in far more immigrants
Mm.
than Scotland. So you got a lot of Muhammads running around Ireland
Uh-oh.
today. And they're not the redheaded Muhammad, because Muhammad had red hair too, but not the original, not the redhead, real McCoy, but we're talking recent immigrants from, not immigrants, let's call them what they are, hostile invaders, okay, Islamic occupation force. So, guys,
I think
free Ireland. We need to liberate Ireland and all of Europe from the Muslim invaders. Need a new crusade as far as I'm concerned. But
my sister moved over there, bro. Did I tell you that
really?
she married a how do I say this? I think so I met I met the guy at the wedding, dude.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I think he's Indian, but
Shit.
he's got a they're Christian and he has the accent. So I don't know what exactly he is. I don't know the guy again, but she moved over. She's been over there for she's in the UK. She's been over there for 3, 4 months now. And yeah, she
Will you pass me the curry, honey?
I think that's Scottish, bro.
No, that's not Scottish. I know my accents.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, super nice people. You know, his parents were nice and everything. But yeah, I did meet the guy at the court for the wedding, and I don't know really anything about him, dude.
Honey, all this talk about toilet paper is making me uncomfortable.
Do they have bidets over there?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Well,
See, someone said that was 1,000% Scottish.
that's Irish. Okay. That's Irish. Okay. Scottish is like more raspy and in the throat.
What you got in your hand there, dude? What is that?
Oh, sorry. I'm just
Got
twiddling
some
away.
toilet paper in your hand?
Just twiddling away.
Some of that red-haired strain?
Yeah. It's that redhead kush.
So, anyways, where were we? So they do have a lot of people. I have seen a lot of the videos where they're fighting, and yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, man. My homeland's my Florida's my homeland, but my motherland, my fatherland's being taken over by hordes of camel lovers. No bueno.
I was gonna say goat lovers, but
Oh yeah, well goat lovers too, same thing.
camels. You know, I was driving in Ocala one day, and I look over to the left, and I see like a farm, and there's a freaking camel just eating grass. Like somebody had a camel out front just eating grass, just chilling. I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Damn.
How baller
That
is
is
that,
crazy.
dude?
That's pretty baller. I mean, I had a friend who had a kangaroo growing up over here in Boca Raton.
Yeah, those are
Pretty nuts.
expensive.
All right, moving on. So, I think we all know this. The Celts have red hair, right? I think that's kind of where most people's knowledge or interest in red hair kind of stops, right? It's like, all right, yeah, it's a Celtic thing, and beyond that, it's just another hair color, right? There's brown, there's gold, there's blonde, there's whatever, red. Nothing special, right? Well, think again. Okay. Did you know red hair is overrepresented in art in general? Red hair is the most overrepresented hair color in art. Meaning, even though it's the rarest hair color in real life, it is overrepresented in artistic depictions across the board around the world. It's a little bit like left hand, people being left-handed. It makes up 10% at most of the general population. But when you start getting to high-paid musicians or professional or well-known musicians and artists, it approaches almost 50-50. Left-handed people, often rise to the top in those artistic industries. But for some reason, artists love depicting people with red hair. It symbolizes things. Color itself is a language, a vocabulary to artists, and red hair has many symbolisms, some good, some bad, most of them mystical or kind of controversial. But let's keep moving. All right. A big part of this is the Bible. So a lot of you've probably heard me talk about red hair in the Bible before. We're going to run through it again with detail and some facts to back it up. But yeah, red hair is all over the Bible, especially the Old Testament. But Adam and Eve, for those who don't know, Adam means red in Hebrew. Adam is the word for red. The root word Adam is red in Hebrew. So that's kind of right on the nose. Adam and Eve are commonly depicted with red hair, but not that often. So it happens, it's popular. It's usually alternatively, like one of them will have red hair and the other won't. That's usually how you see it. This picture is an exception where they both had red hair. Very, very often one of them does have red hair. Not always though. And it's definitely not the majority of depictions. Now, another connection there between Adam and red is in English, some English translations, you'll see Adam's made out of clay, right, instead of dirt. And clay is usually red, has iron in it. When rain drips in clay, iron-rich areas, it can look like blood running down, hills and down the streets and stuff. So there is this connection between clay and blood. Iron, it would be kind of scientific explanation for that, but red hair symbolizes blood. You're born into this world covered in blood. Many of us leave covered in blood. So yeah.
I always interpret it because Adam, right, does mean red man. I
Mhm.
always interpreted that as his skin color. Maybe he was of darker complexion. So again, it could have been the red, and it ties into the Knights Templar where I had brought up on my palm tree investigation, where the leftover clay that was used from creating Adam, his aunt was created, and this is Sufi mysticism. His aunt was created the palm tree, and if you look at the Knights Templar, their cross is red, right? They're white and red, so maybe again that's got something to do with. And blood has iron too, so I don't know. But I've always interpreted that as far as his skin color. Maybe he was darker in complexion. Think about it, they were out in the sun a lot. They really didn't have, they were pretty much wild. So you
Mhm.
could put on a tan, if you will, right?
Yeah. Yeah, hey, that's one way to interpret it. Adam means red. You're right. It doesn't say his hair is red. It doesn't say his skin's red.
Mm-hmm.
Something about him is red. It can't just be a random association. The first person and the first name in the Bible can't just be, half-assed, like has nothing to do with him. But something about him was probably red. Now, moving on, once we get introduced to some more characters, I think we get some more context to that. But yeah, Adam means red. I also like to talk about words like admonish or adamant.
Mm.
Um, Words that have Adam in front of them often have, some of them have to do with being red in the face. like not directly, but to be admonished, to be kind of shamed or put in your place, you can get flush in the face, or to be adamant about something is to kind of be serious, to take it serious, to maybe be kind of excited, or yeah. But all
It
right.
ties directly into the story. So our language itself tells a story, right? Because what happened to them? They had a stern talking to after
Hmm.
they did something that God told them not to do. So I think that's where like these words that mean certain things, in my opinion, they come from that, right? That etymology, that
Yes.
evolution.
And speaking about red people or like red skins, okay, this is another connection between um, Hebrew and like Native American names, is that how Native American names are stuff like walks with horse, or like runs with goat, or wrestles with God. Like that's a Hebrew one. Wrestles with God, Israel. They use the same approach to naming things.
Hmm.
They'll almost name people like a whole sentence condensed into a word. Like uh, I don't know what another example would be, but
No, I get
well,
what you're
whatever.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do that same thing where they like give people a verb or like a whole sentence as a name, and you do kind of decipher a whole sentence from letters or from a smaller word. So Hebrew's like that. That is where Hebrew mythology expands, and it's fractals. It's like fractals. Each word is a whole sentence. But all right, now Adam, we meet and we kind of have some questions about his ruddiness or his redness. Well, next we meet Esau, who is nicknamed or renamed by God Edom. So from Genesis 25:25, King James Version, and the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Uh, Moving down, Edom has the same Hebrew root as Adam, meaning red. Esau's the older twin brother to Jacob, and he looked enough like Jacob to be swapped with him or to kind of pass off as him. So a lot of times people will say when I talk about red hair, they'll be like, "Oh, well, it's not the good guys who had red hair. It's the bad guys who had red hair." Well, yes and no. Okay, yes and no. Remember, the devil's pretty crafty. Um it seems, and now Edom's not a totally bad character. But what he represents is kind of a departure from the ideal, a departure from the true way. And his descendants certainly take on a very negative kind of not very negative, but a antagonistic or, you know, rival. They are rivals to the Israelites. They are not, they're neighbors and they can be friendly. But the Edomites very much come to represent a hostile force. Um, but also, the Edomites explain, people always debate about real Jews, fake Jews. They talk about the Khazarians.
Mm.
Guys, I wouldn't be looking at the Khazarians. I'd go a little bit earlier, further back into history. And this is kind of the same story. And this is something that Jesus would have been aware of. Jesus would have been trying to correct and address this problem about the Edomites mixing in with the Judahites and the Israelites. But all right. So people say, well, Edomites, they're like the bad guys. So if you have red hair, that they must be the bad guys, the red hair people. Well, not exactly. Because remember, the chosen people, the Israelites, the Hebrews, they have this red hair gene too. This is the same family. I mean, these are twin brothers. So they had to look somewhat similar, enough to kind of pass for each other. And then the descendants, it seems, can kind of, some of them can mingle without being noticed or without being distinguished from each other. So they have to be somewhat closely related. So my guess is that the good guys and the bad guys have red hair. And unfortunately, this is kind of a family, this is an issue that's within the family. You know, both of these branches kind of do descend from a similar ancestry. So it's not as simple as saying red hair is bad, red hair is good, of course, but we're going to kind of give some ammunition to both sides, honestly, on both sides of that issue. But
And Esau was the first Bigfoot, right?
yeah,
Because they
and
talked about the skunk ape, and this is one of those stories that people tell when they talk about Bigfoot. And he's almost got like similar to how Bigfoot and cryptozoology, like almost like this trickster aspect to where they trick his dad into giving him, his brother's inheritance. Again, it's like a bait and switch sort of thing. And I mean, some people, anyone can really be like that. I was gonna say a certain Tengu are kind of like that, but hey, anyone can be bad, right? Anyone can be bad, but it gets a little delicate once you start to interpret certain things, how you mentioned earlier about the chosen people and like we are the ones and we're better than you and all this other stuff. Like that's where it gets dangerous, because then you have some sort of
mhm,
complex to want to overtake other people, and then that leads to super horrible things, right? Which we see nowadays and we've seen in history. So
yeah, yeah, totally. That's a term that I've been hearing recently is bloodline idolatry,
mhm.
or you know um, hair color idolatry, right? Like, as much as I talk about these theories, or who's who in the Bible, you never want to get too attached to something like that. You never want to make that more of a, you never want to make a god out of your country of origin, or your race, or anything like that. It's just not a good look. It's not something, s- smart, capable people who can go out and produce and create in life rarely get hung up on race and stuff like that, you know. As
Mhm.
much as I love my race, as much as I love, defending them all and pointing out the differences, it's almost always the people who don't have jack shit going on, who don't who feel inadequate, who would rather rest on the superiority of their group, right? Because it's the shared contributions of my group, right? Not my personal hard work, but I'm resting on the laurels of my group. So, hey, I started off this show saying we need a new crusade in Europe, but we can't let things go too far. And the end all be all is not skin color, of course.
Yeah, we know
So,
the true master race is Puerto Ricans. So I mean, there, I
right.
said it, dude. I said it. It's
Hmm.
okay. We can,
And
we do know that the first Eve, the perfect genetic makeup, comes from Puerto Rico. I said it for you, bro. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
mhm.
We don't have to keep walking on eggshells.
Yeah, we have the science to back it up too.
That's right. That's right. Somebody ran the numbers.
All right. So Esau, Edom, complex guy. He was also a hunter, so he was kind of like the first barbarian. He um he was a hunter. He was like a wild man. Um, hairy all over. Yeah, kind of like almost like a Bigfoot. Maybe the first Neanderthal. Who knows? I don't know. But Edomites. Okay, Edomites. They are kind of the descendants of Edom. His family, maybe a little bit, but certainly they're like the spiritual descendants of Edom, his spiritual successors. And the Edomites, kind of their first strike is that they refused to assist Moses and the Israelites when leaving Egypt. So they passed through their territory, and the Edomites basically are saying, like, all right, see you guys, good luck, but we don't really have much to help you. And they may have been mocking the Israelites or, stuff like that. But their next kind of offense, well, we'll get to that. The kingdom of Edom, if you see on the map here, okay, you see the kingdom of Judah kind of in the middle, kingdom of Israel up to the north. So that's Judahites on the bottom, Israelites on the top. The Edomites were all the way down there at the bottom in yellow. I'll get rid of the chat. Kingdom of Edom there on the bottom. And these people were at times friendly with the kingdom of Judah, but at other times very hostile. Okay. Their next offense comes when the Israelites were exiled. The Edomites cheered when the Israelites were exiled, and then they looted the Judahites. So they took advantage of the chaos. So that's their next strike. Okay. Because of that, they are condemned by the prophets, and they earn this bad name. Kind of how like Canaanite becomes just like a bad term. It takes on a big meaning. It can be used very generally. It can be used generically. Edomite kind of takes on that meaning too. So the Edomites, yeah.
I'm gonna start using it as a derogatory. You Canaanite, like how dare
Yeah.
you freaking barbarian. And also, what river is that in the middle?
I think that is the River Jordan that connects the Sea of Galilee to,
Because
I
you
believe.
know, to interpret this another way, right? Let's look at this from like a spiritual perspective, right? What if it's like the ascension of man, right? From this sort of tame, barbaric,
Mm,
Adamic, Edomic sort of way, and
there we
then
go,
to
guys.
make it, because they talk about that in the esoteric meaning of the Bible, where the
Yeah.
33 vertebrae represent the river of Jordan, and the Christ consciousness is the Kundalini rising up through the sacral and up through your spine, out through your crown. So you look at that because again, and this is an interesting map because technically we don't know what it looked like, right? Technically, we don't know where these places would have been other than their relative locations. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, what if it's the ascension, right? Let's dig deeper and look at the more symbolic meaning of because bro, there was a reason why the alchemists loved the book of Genesis. Okay.
Hmm.
Because they believed that within that book, it was an esoteric meaning on how to create the philosopher's stone. Now, I've talked about that before, and people have called me a Gnostic. I'm not a Gnostic, I'm a Christian. But again, there's different ways of interpretation, especially when it comes to these ancient religious texts. And I'm looking at this now, and it's making me think of that. Like, your journey is to ascend upward and become a Tengu. Am I right on that? To become a Tengu.
A little bit. I mean, I don't know about becoming a Tengu, but
Because
no,
Longo,
go
the
ahead.
Tengu is the only race slash religion, right? Because I can convert to Tengu and become it, right? I mean
Hmm.
that's a thing. So I don't know. It's just something to think about, right? To
Hey, well,
evolve
no, I
into.
mean, you're on to something. You're definitely right. The Bible does do that at times. The Nile River is used the exact same way. The cities along the Nile River are they represent the chakras. That
Mm,
is true. And Edom is a kind of, bear with me here. It's a little bit like Sodom.
mm.
Edom, Sodom, and Sodom's definitely represents the bottom. You know, bottom, Sodom, sodomy, bottomy. It's like uh, to sod yourself. Is to
And there's
to
a lot of those in the Bible, right? So a lot of sodomites and
yep,
all that stuff. There's definitely a lot of that going on. A lot of
yep.
butt stuff. They were into butt stuff back then.
That's the bottom of that's the bottom chakra. That's the bottom of the map. And so yeah, the river can represent that, the pathway up to the top. I would say though that there is a dispute, a controversy about what should rise and to where. Okay. So some people say the goal is to go from root to crown, right? Well, not necessarily. I've heard others say the goal is to go from root to crown and then to center back in the middle.
To shaft. Yeah, yeah. From shaft to
So,
tip and then
yep,
back again.
yep, exactly. Thank you.
100%.
That is so some people say you actually don't want to go up too high because you'll get stuck in the clouds. You'll get too, full of yourself or too stuck in the intellect, oh, I know all the secrets of the universe, all the knowledge is what's important, right? But really, not to be cliche here, but people say it's actually the heart center that's the healthy middle point, you know. You want to live in the middle on the green, right? Like the world, the earth is mostly green, right? There's a lot of blue, there's some red and some orange and some yellow, but the green is what's healthiest and best for us, So earth is a anagram for heart, heart, earth, um, and the heart's in the middle, right? The green chakra's in the middle. So I'm open to that idea. It's not necessarily about ascending. That the whole ascending thing might actually be a psyop, because it takes you away from your foundation. Just blasts you off into the clouds. Um, it's kind of is like the Aramon versus Lucifer thing too, where there's a force tugging you down. There's an evil force tugging you down, but there's also a not so good force pulling you up. Saying, yes, enlightenment, yes, knowledge, yes, learn everything. You're going to become a god. You are, you're going to figure out the secrets. You're going to figure it all out. That may actually not be the ideal destination either. Right. So I'm open to this theory that being centered in the middle is actually the goal.
Yeah, and it
But
comes into like the interpretation of Nakash, right? It's the serpent in the garden, but also Jesus talks about not practicing Nakash, which is divination and that more esoteric and occult stuff. So it's like, and you hear this over and over again: the left hand path, the right hand path, the two pillars, the black lodge, the white lodge. And I know that's more esoteric and occult, but yeah, I get what you're saying where you know, one of the things about being a Christian is you're kind of, and I've made this joke before, where you're too busy focusing on the afterlife that you don't focus on your true life, but there needs to be a balance, right? You
yeah,
can't be too unhinged to where it's like all biblical and all this. So you got to be realistic and you got to be in the middle. And you also have to, just because you pray to Jesus or you pray to God, it doesn't mean Jesus and God are going to make everything happen for you. You still got to put in work, right? Manifestation, if you just think about it, it's going to happen. It's like, go to work, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for
go
real.
to work, get up, clock in, clock out, and then
Manifest a job interview.
yeah, manifest a salary, bro. How's that? So no, I'm with you on that. You got to be in we'll call it the shaft area, the center.
Mhm. Yeah, heart centeredness.
Yes.
So all right. So Edomites. Remember I mentioned the Khazarians, right? And people love to go off on that rabbit hole. Well, here's the real kind of starting point for that whole controversy between real fake Jews. The Edomites mass converted, a lot of them, and they started encroaching on the kingdom of Judah. They started moving in, they started mingling and being absorbed into the kingdom of Judah. And the Edomites in Judea became known as the Idumeans. Idumeans, however you say that. Idumean. All right.
What do you means?
Yeah. Uh, King Herod. Now, if you've heard of Herod, the one that John the Baptist and Jesus weren't a big fan of. Now, there may have been a couple Herods. It's kind of confusing, you know. It's kind of like Caesar. Like there'd be a Caesar and then his son would be Caesar too. And it's like almost like his name, but also his title. And so Herod gets used a couple times like that. There's some ambiguity about who's the one Herod. You know, there's probably a couple, but that's why it's better to just refer to it as the Herodian dynasty. Um, but King Herod the Great, to distinguish from the others, King Herod the Great was an Edomite or an Edomian, and this shows you how the concept of kind of fake Jews came to be. So the Romans took over all this land, all this territory. The Romans called Palestine. That was the Roman name for this area. That word has a little bit to do with the word Philistine from the Bible. It's a similar root, probably the same word, Palestine, Philistine. But the Romans named it Palestine. That's what they called it. And in the area of Judah, kingdom of Judah, which they would call Judea specifically, in Judea, they hired Herod, King Herod, or his family, his community, to preside over Judea as a proxy ruler to the Romans. Yes. It's like you know how we just went to Venezuela and waffle stomped them and scrambled their brains,
They
gave
were
all their
already scrambled, bro. But
gave all
yeah,
gave all their kids PTSD, you
yeah.
know? And what do? We take out one ruler and we put in a puppet who's Venezuelan. I mean, you know, they're Venezuelan people.
Sure.
But we just replaced the more loyal Venezuelans with Venezuelans who are loyal to us, you know? Proxy rulers. It's giving the illusion that Venezuela is still run by Venezuelans. That's what they did. That's what the Romans did in Judea. They they uh put in a proxy ruler, and those proxy rulers were the Herodians. King Herod, his family, and then from them and from that community, you get the Herodians. So from the Idumeans or Idumeans emerged the Herodians, which are Hellenistic Jews, meaning they're Hellenized. They are Jews who got very comfortable in the Greek way of life and now the Roman way of life. Oh, we're having barbecues every night. There's sports games on TV every night. Like, oh, this is nice, you know? Come on. This is like, you know, they're like it's like, you know, very, very religious Jews living in America today. Like, yeah, they can be religious 99% of the time, but when they want to go to a baseball game or a basketball game or whatever, yeah, they can do that too. There's no restrictions. No one's breathing down their neck
They do a good
except
job pretending, and
yeah.
adapting.
So the Hellenistic Jews, the Herodians, I'm generalizing, but for the most part, they were very in favor of the Greco-Roman way of life, and they were willing to bend Judaism, bend the Israelite religion to make it work in the Hellenistic life. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Now, basically, that is where you get this big problem, one of the big problems that Jesus is trying to sort out. When Jesus is saying, hey, there are Jews and there's fake Jews. There are the people who say their father is God, but really their father is the devil. Who's he talking about? He's probably talking about the Edomites, maybe some other Canaanites and Philistine, descended people who had been mixing in with the Judites. And this is just one of the problems that Jesus addressing is that there are people who are fake Israelites who were hired by the Romans to rule over the other Israelites, and it's all a sham. So there's your real Khazarians, people. Okay. Uh,
There was a verse that they brought up at church this past weekend, and I'm trying to find it. It was pretty much like, yeah, you can do miracles in my name and all that stuff, but when it comes to the end of it all, I'll tell you I never knew you. It's almost like, hey, yeah, you could use his name and do all these things under the name of God and say that he did it, but then at the end of the day, it's like you can't serve two masters at once, sort of thing. It's like you put on a facade and it's cool, but
mhm.
it still doesn't make it right.
Right. Yeah, it's almost kind of like people today who it's almost like white people today who say like they're part Native American, or it's like, it kind of like gives you like a special class, or like what else can we compare it to? It's kind of like people who like snobby, also white people who'll have like the last name Washington or like the last name Franklin, and like maybe they're like distantly related, but
Mm-hmm.
because they have that name in their name, it becomes their whole personality, and now they're more obsessed with George Washington than his actual grandkids. Like they become more passionate about it because they're desperately reaching for some importance, some relevance. It's kind of like a cargo cult too, a little bit. Um, another another element I like to call is it's almost like the what would the word be? Um, a rich family, right? A rich family, they won't pass down jewelry as carefully as a poor family. Does that make sense? Right? Like if you're rich, you got a lot of jewelry, you lose some, you forget some, you drop some down the gutter, you're not really going to care that much. But a family that only has a couple pieces of nice jewelry, right? Maybe they found it, maybe they don't even
Mm-hmm.
just maybe it wasn't even theirs to begin with, it fell into their lap. They're blessed with this blessing or something. They're going to cling to that jewelry, cling to it, never let go. You know what I mean? Because it's the only chance they got. And they'll pass that jewelry down so carefully. Um, I kind of see that with there's like a cargo cult mentality where, like in India, when the Aryan or Aryan, horse people came into India, they left such an impression, they left such a mark that uh, they were so influential and so new, so alien, that it's almost like the culture in India froze. It got boosted up to this super high technological level, and then it froze right there because instead of innovating, they just maintained and kind of preserved it exactly as it fell in their lap because they didn't produce it, they didn't create it. That's kind of like the cargo cult mentality where when you're shocked, dumbfounded with this new alien technology, you basically put everything to the side and just try to hang on to it and preserve it as you received it. And because of that, it gives the illusion of religious piety. It gives the appearance of piety, of like devotion and obsession, but really it's like this scrambling, like, oh shit, we didn't invent this. How do we keep it around?
Mm.
But all right, pretty off topic, but Herodians, the Edomites. Now, I guess we kind of skipped, kind of not going in order, kind of not. The next character we want to talk about from the Bible is King David. King David, you see him in the top right there, depicted as a king. On the left there is a boy, and bottom right, I think that's him holding the head of Goliath. But King David is frequently, routinely, consistently depicted with red hair. So King David. And we get that description from Samuel chapter 16. Quote, "Now he was ruddy, and withal of a beautiful countenance, and goodly to look to." And then another verse from Samuel chapter 17. "He was but a youth and ruddy, and of a fair countenance." So, David had a reddish complexion. He's frequently depicted with red hair. And now I should say, it doesn't say specifically he had red hair. It says specifically he had a red complexion. You know, he
It should be face, right? Like, I don't know. Complexion is face or
countenance his face. Complexion is just kind of your skin all over. Um, but yeah, he had ruddy. So ruddy means pinkish, reddish, maybe blushed, sunburned, pinkish. You know, my dad was ruddy, like pink, like Irish jeans. They're just like pink skinned, like a naked mole rat almost. But yeah, you can be ruddy without having red hair. That's an important point. Now, a lot of the brothers, a lot of the black Hebrew Israelites, they want you to believe that ruddy means black. That ruddy means like dark, dark, dark. That's
which
not
is what
true.
I mentioned about Adam earlier, where right that could be
Yeah.
related to the we wasery, where it's like, oh, no, he was
Yeah.
a brother, right? He was sure. I mean, you can interpret it that way, but
Yeah.
is how many depictions of him are with red hair? Do the people that are painting these pictures, is there a reasoning behind giving the red hair? Because how
Yeah.
much of this is accurate versus how much of it is like an artistic interpretation versus
Yeah. Well, how about this, Juan? Just going off those two verses, if we gave you a paintbrush, what would you paint?
yeah, a wigger.
A Wigger, a Wigarthan, a
Yeah,
Uyghur,
yeah,
a Uyghur.
yeah.
Yeah. So, ruddy, I think it kind of, there's room for interpretation, but ruddy complexion is pinkish skinned people.
Reddish.
Yeah. So now as to why, if it was if it was merely an artistic choice, and a lot of this does come down to just like I said at the beginning, artists like using red hair for various meanings. Now in this case it's backed up by the Bible, but in general, red hair can mean a couple things. It can mean many things. In the case of David, it may be used to symbolize bloodshed, cruelty, violence. Now David's a hero. He's a heroic guy. Okay. But he's cruel. He is cruel as a motherfucker. Okay. Was it him who took I have to double check this. Him who caught 200 foreskins?
I believe, yeah, King Saul, because he was trying to marry his daughter.
Yeah. So I think
It's a lot of wieners to touch. Can you imagine touching 200 wieners?
yeah,
Because you
off the
have to touch the tip to get the foreskin off. There's no way around it.
Yep. Yep. Juan's
How do you think he did? You think he grabbed the shaft and like, or do you think he just pinched the tip? I'd go with the pinch the tip method and then just slice. That's a lot of foreskins. That's crazy to think about.
I don't know, man. But so David, I think you said it was Saul. He wants to marry someone's daughter, and the father basically says, "Yeah, of course, but you need to give me 100 enemy foreskins first." And David says, "I bet." And he
Yeah.
goes and gets 200. Goes and gets 200. Not
Yeah.
101, not 102, 200. So, pretty cruel guy, pretty indifferent to bloodshed, it seems. Has a knack
It
for
was
killing.
different times, bro. And I mean, he
Yeah.
did really want, I'm sure she was beautiful. I mean, it's kind of romantic if you ask me, dude. The lengths he was willing to go
Yeah.
to get her hand in marriage, right? And the
The
dad was probably
lengths.
just trolling him, like, yeah, this guy. And I told him he had to get me. You know that meme where they're all laughing? And I told
Yeah.
him I wanted, 104. And here he comes showing up with this blood drenched sack
Yeah.
of foreskins. What a weirdo, dude.
Well, boys pulling up with a bunch of calamari clippings. He's got the little calamari,
No, dude, I love
you know.
calamari. Don't do that. Don't do that. I love calamari. Because then I can't unsee it.
Uh,
And it's kind of chewy too, bro.
yeah,
Damn.
the calamari rings. Yeah.
Wait, you're not allowed to eat calamari, right? Because you're vegan?
No, that was actually I think the last flesh that I ever ate was calamari.
Yeah. Flesh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
because yeah, I love calamari, especially with the sweet Thai chili sauce.
Mhm.
Slaps, bro. But
It
yeah,
was
don't
like
ruin that picture for me.
it, looking like Chef Boyardee, like the rings, like the ring soup.
He was the original Sonic, bro. He was
Yeah.
running through the rings and just bringing them in. All right. All right. Moving on. Moving on.
All right, so King David, red hair, he played his harp. And by the way, red hair, Celtic people, the Celts are known for their harps. So there's another connection
Mm.
there. The Ireland, the national emblem of Ireland is the harp. So pretty cool. Also, I don't know if you ever heard this one, but do you know what covenant man of the covenant, or covenant people is in Hebrew? Do you know how to say that in Hebrew?
No.
Covenant people, people of the covenant. Brit ish.
No, it's not, dude.
Swear to fucking God.
There's no way.
Look it up. What does British mean in Hebrew?
You always
Motherfucker.
come up with this craziness. Oh well, according to AI, it means nothing. Brit
Nothing.
he. So
No, no,
because
no.
the modern
Berit.
he.
It's B''RIT space ISH. Berit ish. Ish means man or
Yes.
people in
Yes.
Hebrew, and then Berit means
Yes.
covenant.
That's correct. That is correct. So it
Hmm.
splits into two. Brit meaning covenant, ish mean man. That's crazy.
It is
Because
crazy.
you're kind of, again, because this is your whole thing where you're talking about maybe mainstream history and the original, well, Israelites weren't from there. And I mean, it's in the language because the language tells a story. So what are we even doing here? Like, what are we even getting at,
Yeah.
right?
Well, here's what I think, okay? I think the Hebrews are Celtic people who went off on a big long voyage throughout Asia, and then they ended up in the Middle East, and only some of them made it back to Northern Europe. A lot of them just stayed put in the Middle East. A lot of them waited till after Jesus to go to Europe, and those are the modern Jews. But I don't want to say most, many of the Israelites converted to Christianity and became the Christians of today. And they live in Europe, many of them. So today we have, and there's all these secular accounts about Celtic people originating in the Middle East or originating near the Black Sea or somewhere over there and then making it to Scotland. Princess Scotia. The Scottish say they come from the Scythians. The Welsh say they come from the Cimmerians. So the Cimmerians are mentioned in the Bible, and the Cimmerians, the Welsh call themselves the Cymry, the Cymry, the Cymry or the Cymry. So the Welsh is pretty close too. Um, All right, whatever. That's a topic for another time. The Israelites and
Forgot
the
the
Irish.
forgot the Nigerians. Where do they come from?
I'm not familiar with that tribe, but so here. Now we're looking at Jesus himself. Jesus is frequently depicted with red hair. Definitely not always. It's definitely not the most popular depiction. You usually see him with brown or blonde hair, but red hair happens a lot of the time too. So, Jesus Christ, often depicted with red hair, but usually blonde or brown. Red hair symbolizes blood and a connection to Adam. So, if it is an artistic choice, that may be what they're trying to symbolize is Adam means red. Jesus is like the new Adam, Jesus is kind of tying the whole story back together, closing the loop
It
that
would make
starts with
sense
Adam.
though, because there is a lineage, right? And it all comes right. King David, King Solomon. Was Solomon depicted as having red hair as well? And
It's
if
hard to
Daddy's got
say.
red hair, then the son, is it a dominant gene? Do you know?
Well, it's a recessive gene, but
Mm.
but recessive is kind of misleading. Like when people hear that word, uh, two red two redheaded parents have a very high likelihood of having redheaded kids, but red hair does stay in the family, and there are
Hmm.
environmental factors that increase your likelihood of having it. So, cold weather, low light, things like that can make those genes more likely to be expressed.
Mm.
Um, uh, there's tons of wild theories. We'll get through some more of them. But early Muslim sources consistently describe Jesus as ruddy or red headed. So,
So,
Muslims, yeah,
King
go ahead.
Solomon, his hair is described as black as a raven.
Yes and no. So, the Song of Solomon is probably one of the hardest books of the Bible to follow along with and to like understand exactly what's going on because it's very poetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like in a verse of a song, like when a band is singing, it's the same singer singing, but sometimes he'll switch to like multiple points of view. Like "Don't Stop Believing," almost like "Just a small town boy," and then he switches "Just a small town girl," talking about a whole different story, same story, different character, different perspective. Something similar happens in the Song of Solomon, where it gets kind of confusing because there's someone who has hair dark as a raven, um, but then there's also someone speaking who they're saying someone is apologizing for having dark hair and saying you're beautiful white and have red hair and jeweled eyes. I'm sorry that I have dark hair, but thank you for loving me anyway. Like they're kind of saying stuff like that. So there's multiple parties expressing um, admiration, you know. But basically, what I get out of it is the Song of Solomon actually reaffirms there's a red-haired beauty standard to the Israelites. The beauty standard for the Israelites is red hair and jeweled eyes. Um,
Was this the Song of Solomon that was like homoerotic or something like that?
it's again, it's hard to. It depends who you think is speaking.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hey, check this out. But queer and feminist scholars sometimes read it through a homoerotic or fluid lens. Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So there's in the Song of Solomon, there's someone with dark hair speaking. There's someone with light hair and light skin, at least being spoken to. And mm, it's a little confusing, but my takeaway is that the beauty standard is red hair. And yes, yeah, these comments are correct. Yeah. Uh, many. Solomon had tons of wives. So maybe he got a little confused, who knows? Maybe he was talking to two at once, or you know, maybe he had a couple of guys in there. I don't know.
Hey, it's
But
all good, dude. You're into what you're into.
magicians, it's kind of a must if you're a
Love is
magician.
love.
But yeah, so Jesus Christ, frequently depicted with red hair. Not always. Definitely not always. Moving on. Now, here's a big one that is almost always depicted with red hair. Like
Is that
90,
Jesus?
99% of the time. No, Juan. Come on.
What an ugly depiction, dude.
This is. Take another guess, Juan.
No, I know it's Judah, but is he up
Yeah.
against Jesus? Who is that?
Yes, that is a rather portly
That
Jesus.
is disgusting portrayal of our Lord and Savior, dude.
Why does it
This is
matter what he looks like, Juan? Why are you so vain? Don't be
that
such a
is
Taurus.
oh, dude. I mean, who? All right, just go on.
That looks like Dwight from The Office.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but never mind.
Looks like Paul Giamatti, kind of.
It's the great value Jesus right there. Looks
Oh
like he's
yeah,
drunk and hungover with a 5 o'clock shadow. Look at him. God,
that's that's the local theater Jesus.
who? Give me the name of that artist right now. I'm gonna go and find him.
I don't know, but when you're making the guy on the right look ugly, you're not mogging.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Judas Iscariot is frequently is almost like an understatement. Is usually depicted with red hair. It's almost universal. So there's some exceptions, but the vast majority show Judas with red hair. At least great works of art. I'm not talking about clip art or fucking deviant art or whatever, this dumb shit. I'm talking about real paintings from the medieval times, Renaissance, all that. Judas frequently has red hair. Traditionally depicted with red hair. That's a pretty early thing too. Um, Another thing, he's often depicted with a hooked nose. You see that in these depictions. You see that?
Wonder why.
See this one? Damn.
Got that Tengu special.
Yeah. So that is, you got the nose, got the red hair. Now Judas, if this is just an artistic decision, probably has to do with the fact that red hair was and maybe even is associated with betrayal and
Mm.
deceit. Okay, so you see the good and the bad. Red hair. It's I'll be honest. Usually, you hear a little bit more negative about red hair. It's usually more of like, hey, watch out for those people with red hair. But Judas, as I think a lot of people know, Judas as a character came to personify / symbolize a certain group of people. You want to hit the soundboard, Juan? We got any?
Longo? Who?
Illuminati confirmed.
Illuminati confirmed.
The Judas, it's right there in his name too. That's not a coincidence. Judas, Judea, Judahite. Judas represents the old ways, the bad ways, the wrong way, the easy way out too, because he ended up self-deleting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the easy way out is another thing Judas is associated with. He couldn't live with himself. But Judas represents a certain group of people, and that's why he's depicted the way he is, frequently. That's a big part of it. Now, yeah. All right, moving on. Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene, just like Judas, is frequently, usually depicted with red hair.
Was she a
Almost,
Tengu?
uh, kinda, yeah, maybe. Um, she was one of Jesus's followers. Probably not a just not from his own community. I think that's what her last name means. Actually, is her place of origin. Let me double check this. Woman from Magdala. Yeah, so there you go. So she was not from Jesus's community, but let me double check this. Was she Jewish?
So western shore of the Sea of Galilee in Roman Judea. So Magdalene translates to of Magdala.
Yes. So Google says yes, she was Jewish,
Hmm.
but it would make sense. So she has red hair. Now let's learn a little bit more. Mary Magdalene, traditionally depicted with red hair, usually depicted with red hair. Now, if that's an artistic decision, it probably has to do with the fact that red hair is associated with promiscuity and witchcraft. Now, remember, Mary Magdalene, she's rumored, alleged to have been a prostitute, right? Or a kind of a libertine woman, or a woman who kind of shamed her family in some way,
She was for the streets, yeah.
something. People always want to go to bat for Mary Magdalene, but no one ever wants to really understand what her actual offense was. I mean, she was what does it say? She was infested with 7 different demons when Jesus found her, if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
to Jesus, right? He was always more. He would gravitate towards people who were not perfect, right?
Yeah.
And he would liberate them from whatever he had. So there's also that aspect to it of, hey, he did, the people who were sick, the people who were demented, the people who were, and he would cast out the demons, et cetera, et cetera. So it would make sense that he would gravitate towards her if she did have 7 demons or whatever it is that
Mhm.
she was infected with or whatever.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Juan. Jesus says something to the effect of, doctors are not here for the healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors are here for the sick, right? I'm here for the worst, the dredges of society,
Mm-hmm.
the people that can't even make it into the temple to get blessed. The people that can't even they'll get turned away at the temple because they're too dirty or sick or diseased. So and vicious, people who were criminals and stuff like that too. So Juan's right. Now there's big disagreements as to what her offense really was, how she got into the position that she was. But the Bible tells us that she had 7 demons leave her body when Jesus healed her. It's pretty easy to associate those with the 7 chakras, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And some people interpret this as like, oh, the chakras are bad and Jesus removed her chakras. I don't think so. Um, I don't want to pile on to all the nonsense that people say about chakras, but I think it's makes more sense that you know, I've always said the chakras can be engines of virtue or vice. The 7 chakras each are associated with a virtue and a vice. So, but yeah, Jesus flipped her in the right direction. Now, whatever she was doing before Jesus met her, it seems that she had gotten herself into some trouble, some spiritual trouble, some disgrace, right? And the red hair, just like kind of blonde hair is associated with, that's more of a recent thing, but blonde hair is like a girl's more slutty if she has blonde hair, right? Or she's dumber, she's more ditzy or kind of uh, more of an airhead or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, red hair, not so much today, but historically, red hair has been like a sexy kind of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Red hair is like seen as promiscuous, like I said. Red hair was associated with promiscuity. You know, people whose hair was red, their blood was too hot. You know, their constitution was imbalanced. Right, they need excitement and stimulation and stuff like that.
Maybe because they have no souls, right? Because their souls were
Well,
replaced with demons.
hey, something to that. Yeah, something to that. But something very interesting about Mary Magdalene. Juan, have you ever heard of Harry Mary?
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Okay. So another explanation: long unkept hair and body hair was a symbol of penance, asceticism, and hermitude. So like being a hermit. So there's the color, but the fact that she was also depicted as covered in hair, meaning like the hair on her head grew down to her feet, but also sometimes she even has body hair, like
Yo,
hairy arms,
that's
hairy
hot.
shoulders. Well, hey, teach
Hey,
their own, Juan.
you're
You know,
into what you're into, bro.
hey, well, welcome to the land of the free and home of the brave. Enjoy yourself.
Do you
Just
have the pictures of
leave
Harry Mary?
leave our country better than you found it, and I don't care what you do. Yeah, I do,
Oh,
man,
dude, looking like some ramen noodles up in here, bro.
for
Look at
real.
that. That's pretty
Yep,
hot.
Harry Mary.
Dude, the
So
carpets match the drapes. What
the
do you think?
carpet is the drapes.
Just one whole piece, dude. Got
Yeah.
a furry onesie on, just completely from head to toe. What an interesting depiction, right? Like people felt the need to paint this, and there's
Hmm.
various depictions. I mean, there's a ton of different ones from all over history. So interesting selection of Harry Mary.
Well, remember, Edom was born covered in hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Edom was like the twin or the counterpart, the rival to Jacob, from which the Israelites come. And so there is maybe kind of like a connection between being covered in red hair, with Jesus having this new partner, this, I don't know,
Well,
who
it's
knows?
been put that she's like the feminine counterpart, right? Sometimes, where she was
Hmm.
one of the only. Well, I think all the women that saw him that found him were Marys, weren't they? They were all MMs. Mary.
Mother
Weren't they?
Mary. Yeah.
There were three Marys that found him, and it was only women. So there's this concept of again how you had put on their witchcraft and MAGA, Magdalene. MAGA means mage in Latin.
Mm.
MAGA, right? So the red hat of the MAGA party. They talk about Trump being some sort of chaos magician, but
Hmm.
again, just some connections. Maybe she is the counterpart to Jesus. That's blasphemous and that's heretical in some people's eyes. But again,
Hmm.
just spitballing ideas.
Have you ever heard, what part of the brain the amygdala is?
The amygdala,
Amygdala? Amygdala?
is that towards the bottom back?
Almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep inside the brain's temporal lobe that processes emotions, controls the fight or flight response, and forms emotional memories.
Mm-mm.
Amygdala? Magdalene? I don't know.
Yep, yep.
Sarah Abram, cerebrum. You ever
Mm.
hear of that one?
No, I never heard of it.
Sarah Abram cerebrum. Yeah.
Who's Sarah Abrams? Who's that?
Well, Sarai is the wife of Abram, and
Oh,
Abram becomes Abraham, and
you're talking about biblical. I thought you were talking about like
yeah.
some
No,
Bonnie
well,
Blue. I thought you were
it's in
talking
the
about like a
brain.
Bonnie Blue. You know.
Sarah Abrams. Well, no. All right. So Harry Mary, out of the way. Not my proudest wank, not my proudest spank, but
Not my proudest stuff.
not my proudest not my proudest wank, but moving on.
Jesus, forgive me, please.
Witches. Okay. Red hair, long associated with witchcraft and witch blood or the witch gene. So it's believed that there is a certain gene that makes you a witch or gives you the ability to be a witch or a psychic or something like that. And red hair is associated with that. So much so that having red hair was enough to garner accusations of witchcraft up until recent times.
Yikes.
Like up until 1900 or even later. I mean, um, in the 1800s, they would still put people to death for being a witch, sometimes based off hair color. Um, yeah, it happened. There was spiritualist movements all over America. There was reactions to those, and there would be strict kind of uh, what's the word when you kind of clamp down on that and kind of these movements would come up and then people would come in and wipe them out and you know commit atrocities sometimes. So
Hmm.
this happened up until very recently. But all right, witches. Um, why would red-haired women be associated with witchcraft? Well, there are some scientific facts that may have an explanation. So, for example, connection to drugs and resistance to anesthesia,
Hmm.
high pain tolerance. These are facts about red hair. Did you know that people with red hair have a higher resistance to anesthesia? Now, that partly has to do with the fact, which is a fact, another fact, they also have a measurably higher pain tolerance. So, higher pain tolerance, resistance to anesthesia, and then there's not as much research on this one, but it's in the same vein as the other two. Redheads have a very interesting relationship with drugs. Okay, they can do more drugs than others. Sometimes they can be um, they can be overly affected by certain drugs, and others can have no effect on them. It messes the dosages up. Um, they need different doses. Their blood, their fat in their cells, something processes differently. And so, if you can put yourself in someone's shoes, like 500 years ago, you didn't know any science or anything, and the people with red hair would burn themselves, or step on things, or burn themselves, or get bit by ants, and maybe not notice it as much as the other people, or maybe have some sadistic tendencies, or what's the word, like sadomasochist tendencies, where they laugh at things that other people cry at. We've all met people like that who kind of have a weird twisted
Hmm.
uh sense of pain, or what feel. We all know those kids growing up who like punch metal walls, or like punch trees to like make their knuckles harder, or like hold like a lighter under their hand, or like dumb little tricks like that. Somewhere in the ancient past, people might have picked up on this stuff, that people with red hair needed more of a certain substance to feel it, or had a strange relationship with pain, and things like that over and over again throughout history, uh, cultivated this reputation that people with red hair are different. Their relationship to pain and uh, you know,
Also,
yeah.
they can create more vitamin D in lower light environments. Which, think about that.
Hmm.
Witches and magicians and all these people in these secret societies, they do what in caves and in the darkness, and hidden away. So,
Ooh,
and all
okay.
these things about right, we're talking about them being able to be a little bit more resistant to certain substances to enter altered states of consciousness, right? Maybe they can last longer in that altered state of consciousness because they have to take a bigger dose or whatever. And
Mhm.
think about that aspect of if their blood and their people, right, have superpowers. If we go back a little bit, you had mentioned on your slide with Mary Magdalene that she's related to the Holy Grail, the bloodline of Jesus, and all that other stuff. So
Yes.
that could also play a role into this concept of, hey, if Mary Magdalene was redheaded, et cetera, her blood itself had some sort of power, and we pass it down. And the Knights Templar were known for what? For guarding all these relics,
And eating
including
ass.
and eating each other's asses. 100%. They were eating each other's asses.
Yep.
100%. They were gay for pay.
Here, guys. Mark O'Farrell gifted 4 Old World Florida memberships. 5 Leaf Clover gifted 5
Hey,
Juan and I memberships. Danny Ocean with the 440 jewels.
some
Listen,
shekels.
buddy. My landlord doesn't take jewels, okay? My weed dealer doesn't take jewels, okay? But just kidding. We appreciate the jewels. I just don't know what to do with them. I don't
They're
know
a
if that
cent
even
a piece, I think, brother. One jewel is 1 cent, I think.
really.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay. Well, I don't know what jewels are. I don't know how to use those or anything. So,
you gotta
but I
you gotta you gotta shove them in your ass.
yeah. Tell us a little more about that one.
Yo, you saw Chungus talking shit in the chat, bro? He's talking down on your boy.
So, all right, we'll get to that.
Uh oh.
Jen W became a YouTube member. Shout out Jen. Jen again. And Lofty Kelter with the 9.99 says recently found Old World Florida following tree synchronicities. Keep doing up the great work, fellas. Can't wait to check out the bookstore. Shelia. Stop on by. I'm here on the weekends.
Uh oh.
$4.99 from Chungus says regular Bible, corrupted by what white boy King James, has no wisdom. It's only in the Ethiopian one,
Bro,
guys.
ignore it. Narco, ignore it. I know he's gonna go off. Just ignore him.
The 4.99. Where does Ron Weasley come into play?
Good
That's funny.
good point, because and I don't know enough about Harry Potter lore to know if
Well,
he did play a role or not.
well, well. Here, I got a trick up my sleeve here. All right, you ready for this? I'll do you even better than Harry Potter. Okay. For anyone thinking we're kind of skipping around here, but we already talked about the Israelites. Now let's talk about modern day Jewish people.
The dentist.
Many people, many Jewish people today have red hair. In fact, okay, one sec. Whew. All right, everyone take a breath. She's gone. uh, oh, fuck. Uh,
Would
so,
100%.
all right. So, modern Judaism, okay? Modern Jews, roughly 4% of Jewish women worldwide have red hair. Roughly 11% of Jewish men worldwide have red beards. So hair, but definitely beards. Roughly 6% of Ashkenazi Jews have red hair. That's both sexes. Now, for anyone who may be thinking, "Oh, well, what are you talking about? I don't think red hair is a Jewish thing." I hear people say that a lot because I'm always talking about Columbus and the red hair and the pirates and stuff. Sometimes I hear people say, "Oh, Jews don't have red hair. That's nonsense. That's just one or two. That's just a couple." No, that's not true. It's actually they're extremely more redheaded than everyone else in Europe, with the exception of the Celts. Okay, they're the next most redheaded people in the world, behind the Celts and that one group in Russia. Then the Jews. So remember, guys, remember back to Jacob. Jacob and his twin brother, they kind of look very close sometimes. Their descendants look pretty close. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish, but it's not that hard to distinguish. Okay. Now I wrote Kyle from South Park there, because I was just going to mention him there, but I realized it's actually not just Kyle from South Park. It's like most cartoon Jews have red hair too.
Hmm.
Did you ever notice this?
No.
So Kyle from South Park is probably the most famous example of a Jewish person with red hair in modern times. You know, it's a cartoon character, but still, it's representing reality. Now, it's reflecting reality. Now, I started digging into that, and this is kind of a good thing because it shows we're not just coming up with this. Okay, this isn't just some random association. Like most of these shows have Jewish writers,
Yep.
and they did this they did this on purpose. And so this isn't just some random like theory. This is true. This is this is evident. Um, on the top right there, you have Kyle from South Park. On the left there, you have the Mort. What's his name? What's his last name? Goldman. Where's my family, guys? People, what's his name? Mort what?
So it's Mort Goldman.
Goldman. Mort Goldman. On the bottom right, I think that is the parents from the Magic School Bus,
Hmm.
and their kid is Jewish too. They say he's canonically Jewish. You know.
Someone said Rugrats too, right?
Oh yeah, what's that kid's name?
Chuck. Is it Chucky or something like that?
Let me
Also,
check.
Chucky the doll. That's redheaded, isn't it?
Oh, Judaism and Rugrats. Oh wow, 6 episodes of the series are devoted to Jewish holidays. Oh wow.
Oh,
The
okay.
Pickles family is shown to be part Jewish. So yeah, and also the teacher in the Magic School Bus is also Jewish and redheaded. So
So it goes
yeah,
deeper than we think, huh?
I mean it's well known, especially amongst themselves. Um, but yeah,
Is Carl from Jimmy Neutron Jewish?
I don't know. Check that.
Let's
You know,
see.
not to be mean here, but a lot of times it's like the dorky, geeky kid who has red hair and freckles, and those a lot of times they're indirectly Jewish, they're
Hmm.
sometimes it's the case without them needing to say it. But yeah. And growing up in Boca Raton, Florida, I can attest. I can corroborate all of this. Now, we're going to go off into some more wild territory. And by the way, is this just not like, I mean, all right, I'm just not going to say anything. You guys, come on. You guys tell me what you think. What are we looking at here? I'm not going to say anything. All right. It's almost like if I submitted this to like a contest or something, they would accuse me of like having photoshopped this. They would accuse me of like using these pictures for bad or something like. You guys get what I'm saying? Like these pictures exist out there, and you don't even have to.
The guy on the right there, look, the bottom right looks like the guy from Harry Potter, the actor. What's his name?
Which one?
The guy that plays Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Rad. Is he No, he's English, wasn't he?
Oh, they can be English, Juan.
Oh, he's Jewish. He is by heritage through his mother, identifying as a proud Jew despite not being religiously observant. So he is Jewish.
Hmm.
Yikes. All right. I guess they do rule the media.
So yeah, that's a Beth Midler on the left there, and then there's just a rabbi on the top right and some other guy. But you know, these people exist. You know, you may not see them because they're not on TV and because you don't live in Boca Raton, Florida, or New York or something. But they are all over the place. Red hair is very common
Is
in
she the one
Jewish
that plays
people.
the witch too, right? From the Disney movie?
I do not know. You're
Yeah,
asking the
the
wrong guy.
so which Disney movie? I'm pretty sure she's the one that plays the Hocus Pocus movie, right?
I don't know.
From Disney, where they're like three witches. Yep. Yep. So Hocus Pocus 93 and 2022, the lead witch, Winfred Sanderson.
Who is Shara Magomedov?
Don't know. Wouldn't really listen to a lot of what this guy's got to say, bro. He's a little
Yeah,
shady.
he's Muslim. But Juan, have you ever heard about since we're on Judaism, have you ever heard about red-haired Muslims?
No.
Okay. Uh you know how at the beginning of the show we were talking about how Islam is like invading Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, did you know that many Europeans are actually converting to Islam and that it's usually, okay, disproportionately red-haired people converting to Islam? Look it up. There are articles and studies being done on it. They're called ginger jihadis.
Are you serious?
I'm not even kidding. Look it up. Red-haired Muslim converts.
Let's see here. The ginger jihadi refers to Abdullah Elmir, an Australian teenager from Sydney who joined the Islamic State and starred in a prominent online propaganda video in October 2014.
Yep. If you search Americans who joined ISIS, like
They're all redhead?
three of the top ones are redheads.
Really?
Yeah.
So okay. Let's go back a little bit because we talked about that maybe the Nephilim, right, and these giants and everything, which the Nephilim were known as warriors. They were violent, I can imagine. Right, there's this lineage that comes down. Is that maybe why do ginger people have more violent tendencies than others? Maybe because they have a higher pain tolerance. Is there something to be said about this where they're drawn to obviously some radical ideas
So,
to be a part of it, you know?
yeah, there's something to that.
Like
So
blood
the
sacrifice and just, violence
yeah,
and just
yep, there's something to that. Aristotle had some opinions on red hair, and Aristotle's not my favorite. I'm much more of a Plato guy, but
yep.
multiple red hair theories are attributed to Aristotle. Here's a quote from him or attributed to him. You know, we can't know for sure. Quote, those with tawny colored hair are brave. Witness the lions. But those with reddish hair are of bad character. Witness the foxes. So he's saying you can't separate like character from color. And that, you know, blonde people or like dirty blonde are courageous because that's what color hair lions have, you know? He's saying foxes, people with red hair are like foxes, you know, they're crafty, they're sneaky, they're
Sneaky.
yeah, they're you know, independent because they can't get along with others, you know, they're like yeah. But then he says something else interesting. Fishermen, divers for murex, and generally those who work as on the sea have red hair. So something he says is that living by the ocean contributes to red hair. And that brings us to the Phoenicians. Not a whole lot to say about them, but the Phoenicians, who were, contemporaries with the Greeks and the Romans, and before that, the Phoenicians are, I'm not going to say frequently, but famously depicted with red hair. So the ancient Greek root phoinos means blood red or crimson. And the Phoenicians, people think of phoenix when they hear Phoenician, but phoinos, the first half of this word, probably means blood red or crimson. So the Phoenicians, it's like calling them the red people, the red men. And the Vikings, or some of the Vikings, were called something similar to that too. They were called the Rus, like Russia or Rus, or rusty, rosy. But the Phoenicians, in this painting on the right there, it's a famous painting of Phoenician women. And it's not an ancient painting, but it's still a very significant one. And you see there the woman depicted with bright red hair, and the other woman's wearing a Phrygian cap. So that's something else that was associated with the Phoenicians a little bit, was the red cap, the red hat. The Moroccans who were over there, largely sharing the same territory as the Phoenicians, different time period, but yeah, Phrygian cap, Scythian cap, yeah. And the Moors, who had come to encompass much of the same territory later, also started wearing red hats, the fez. So, but yeah, and going back to Aristotle, just so you know, the Phoenicians were famous for diving, or they had the monopoly on this dye that probably came from the murex shells. So Aristotle's indirectly saying here, yeah, he's indirectly saying, well, the Phoenicians probably had red hair because they are in charge of the murex trade. They're the ones living in the water, living in the boats, working with these shells, with this shellfish, these crustaceans.
So I have some notable mentions as far as redheads that are kind of tied into. I don't know if you had some. You didn't talk about that.
Yeah. I had two more slides. Lovelock Cave. When people hear red hair or red-haired giants, this is usually what they think of. There's a lot of kind of fantasy that gets spread about the Lovelock Cave. People kind of take it and run with it. But the Lovelock Cave, it's a cave near Lovelock, Nevada. It was quote unquote discovered in 1911, then excavated in 1912, 24, 36, on and on and on and on. I guess these are the more official excavations. I'm sure people were going in there all the time pulling shit out, but they found some wild stuff in this cave. They found a sling. They found textiles, baskets, and interestingly, duck decoys. So you ever pull into a neighborhood and see those fake ducks in the lake? Yeah, the duck decoys. Usually they're there to call in ducks, or like to call in mates, or certain ones I guess are there to keep ducks away or other types of birds away. The inhabitants of Lovelock Cave, this ancient race of people who we're going to describe more in a sec, they were so inventive, so innovative, so crafty and industrious. They actually built very, very accurate duck decoys. Yep, like Duck Dynasty. There's a Duck Dynasty headquarters clubhouse, and they made duck decoys. That's pretty out there. That's pretty like advanced, for Native Americans. They were making decoys to call, to bring in ducks. Pretty interesting stuff. What's even more interesting is that slings were very rare in Native America, in pre-Columbian America. Very, very rare. The Book of Mormon talks about slings, and they actually use that against the Book of Mormon, saying, "Oh, well, Native Americans never used slings, barely ever, so that's ridiculous." Well, actually, in the Lovelock Cave, they found slings, one big one for sure, and a couple others that. Now, most importantly, what did they find? They found a giant pair of sandals. That's right, sandals.
There were Crocs.
No, they're actually like, you ever see those Jesus shoes that are like rope,
Yeah.
where it's like the bottom's made of rope and the top is all made of the same rope? They were just like that. When I saw a picture of some of these sandals or similar sandals, I was like, dude, that looks like something someone would wear today.
I got a picture of it if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, let's do it. Um,
I gotta make sure it's this one.
yeah, there's a whole type of them. They call them like something sandal.
Hold on, false alarm. I don't know if it's this one, the one that I got pulled up, but I see the picture of the artifacts here from the Lovelock Cave.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
here's the
true.
duck decoy. There we go.
Yeah, show them.
That's mad cute.
I mean, that's pretty good. Like, that's not just some sticks slapped together. I mean, that thing looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's got the feathers and everything on it. What if they were just like super terrified of ducks and they just wanted to keep them away?
I don't know.
These giants, they're just terrified of ducks. Effigy of rat. What? It's like a mouse. You see that?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so they wove stuff. They made baskets. They were very technologically advanced. Even though they didn't have many natural resources, they were very industrious. They built a lot of stuff, and they collected their things, and they put them away, and you know had different rooms for different items and stuff. But all right, so what's up with this cave? Well, and the giant pair of sandals, they are radiocarbon dated to 10,000 years ago. Giant pair of sandals dated to 10,000 years ago. Now I know radiocarbon dating. Okay, I'm not gonna bet my life on it. I'm not gonna say it's 100% foolproof. Okay, but I mean, whatever old is, that shit's old, and that's it says it right there, making him the oldest footwear ever found in Nevada and among the oldest in the world. Are you
That's
kidding
wild.
me?
Yeah.
Humans have only been in America for like 20,000 years at most, and they've been in Africa and shit for like 200,000, so they say. But we came up with shoes at the same time. Like they had shoes over here and shoes over there, except they had 100,000 year head start. I don't know, but yeah.
Something's fishy. So,
Hey, do you know what a do you know what a copper light, Juan, is?
no.
Do you know what a copper premium is?
No, I don't.
Copper light is it's like fossilized poop, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, where do so a size, what was it, a size 15 shoe,
I
leading
think
somebody to think that
Did it
because they
say
never found
size
any
15?
bones, right?
Did it say size 15?
No, but I think that's what you said to me
Oh yeah.
earlier. So.
I thought it said 15 inches. So
Oh,
yeah, I see. No, you're right. I've seen it both ways online. It's hard to get the exact like measurement, but they say 15-inch long shoe, and then some other people say it's a size 15. I've heard other people say it's a size 20 or size 29 shoe.
that'd be ginormous.
Yeah.
So the concept of the giants, because I know recently on Joe Rogan they had that guy, uh, Alberino, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
that guy he was talking about. And I always love how all these guys they have all these sources and they can never say anything, right? It's like, oh well, one of my sources said that the
Yeah.
giants of Kandahar, it's not giant, it's giants, and there was a bunch of them, and there was like a whole village that they took out, but I can't talk about it because I can't reveal it. It's always this whole thing, and it just makes me think of this, where the idea comes from, and this is allegedly, right? Mummified remains of a 6 foot 6 inch tall body. Mummified remains were found there in 1911, but again, did the Smithsonian grab a hold of this mummified mummy, a 6 foot 6, which 6 foot 6 again, it's pretty tall, right? We mentioned earlier Genesis 6:4, so anything over 6'4", we'd consider it a giant. But again, I think if you're 6'6", I guess you would wear a size
Yeah.
15 shoe easily,
That
at
makes
least,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know about 29 because then you'd be disproportionate. I think you'd have big ass feet compared to your height. But and again, I feel like there was a lot of exaggerations too in the time when they put this out, but that's where the giants come from, right? The giant aspect of this cave, of the Lovelock
See
cave
now,
giants.
here I've got. Oh man, where was I looking at? I had a PDF from like the original excavation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my sources over in Lovelock Cave. They wouldn't want me to tell you about that, so I'm gonna have to keep that off. Keep that keep those cards close to my chest. But yeah, my Lovelock, my insider over at Lovelock Cave, government intel.
Yeah, it's
But
just a bunch of crap.
well, here there is something about. Have you ever heard of? Well, here let's talk about this. The Lovelock Cave is famous for the Lovelock Giants. Juan
Mm-hmm.
said 6'6". That's like the minimum, not minimum, but
It's a
that
baby giant.
that's what's been confirmed. Okay. Now the Lovelock Giants, there's this rumor that the Lovelock Cave was full of red-headed giants who were cannibals. Um, Now what's
Which
interesting
sounds
is this comes from a story from a lady, a wisdom keeper, like a historian, a Native American historian who her name was Sarah Winnemucca. She wrote this book called Life Among the Paiutes or the Paiutes. And in this book, she wrote something very interesting. Here, let me find. Let me find. Okay. Switch gears here in a sec. Juan, while we're doing this, can you queue up the article about the Muslims and red hair and like the Muslim converts, please? All right, moving on.
from 2014, bro.
Yes.
Ginger jihadis, why redheads are attracted to radical Islam.
Yeah. I think what's his name? Milo Yiannopoulos wrote that. You know Milo?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. I think Milo Yiannopoulos wrote that.
Yeah, he did.
that article. Okay, here. This is from that lady, Sarah Winnemucca. She wrote this in 1883, 30 years before Lovelock Cave was even discovered. Okay, and she's from the same area. She wrote this. Among the traditions of our people is one of a small tribe of barbarians who used to live along the Humboldt River. It was many hundred years ago. They used to waylay my people and kill and eat them. They would dig large holes in our trails at night, and if any of our people traveled at night, which they did, for they were afraid of these barbarous people, they would oftentimes fall into these holes. That tribe would even eat their own dead. Yes, they would even come and dig up our dead after they were buried, and would carry them off and eat them. Now and then, they would come and make war on my people. They would fight, and as fast as they killed one another on either side, the women would carry off those who were killed. My people say they were very brave. When they were fighting, they would jump up in the air after the arrows that went over their heads and shoot the same arrows back again. My people took some of them into their families, but they could not make them like themselves, so at last they made war on them. This war lasted a long time. Their number was about 2,600. The war lasted some 3 years. My people killed them in great numbers, and what few were left went into the thick bush. My people set the hush or bush, maybe that's a typo. My people set the bush on fire. This was right above Humboldt Lake. Then they went to work and made tule or bulrush boats and went into Humboldt Lake. They could not live there very long without fire. They were nearly starving. My people were watching them all around the lake and would kill them as fast as they would come on land. At last, one night, they all landed on the east side of the lake and went into a cave near the mountains. It was a most horrible place, for my people watched at the mouth of the cave and would kill them as they came out to get water. My people would ask them if they would be like us and not eat people like coyotes or beasts. They talked the same language, but they would not give up. At last my people were tired, and they went to work and gathered wood, and began to fill up the mouth of the cave. Then the poor fools began to pull the wood inside, till the cave was full. At last my people set it on fire. At the same tittle they cried out to them, "Will you give up and Okay, there's definitely typos in here. Will you give up and be like men, and not eat people like beasts? Say quick, we will put out the fire." No answer came from them. My people said they thought the cave must be very deep or far into the mountain. They had never seen the cave, nor known it was there until then. They called out to them as loud as they could, "Will you give up? Say so or you will all die." But no answer came. Then they all left the place. In 10 days, some went back to see if the fire had gone out. They went back to my third or fifth great-grandfather, and told him they must all be dead. There was such a horrible smell. This tribe was called people eaters, and after my people had killed them all, the people round us called us Sedukara. It means conqueror. It also means enemy. I do not know how we came by the name of Paiutes. It is not an Indian word. I think it is misinterpreted. Sometimes we are called pine nut eaters, for we are the only tribe that lives in the country where pine nuts grow. My people say that the tribe we exterminated had reddish hair. I have some of their hair, which has been handed down from father to son. I have a dress, which has been in our family a great many years, trimmed with this reddish hair. I am going to wear it some time when I lecture. It is called the mourning dress, and no one has such a dress but my family. Wow. So, before the archaeologists ever came in there, she was saying there was giants, they ate humans, and they had red hair. Pretty, pretty uh, clear cut to me. Sounds like case closed, you know?
Yeah, and again, there's stories similar to that one all throughout different places as well, and it sounds a
Mhm.
lot like Nephilim, the giants of Kandahar, et cetera, that had red hair, and they were mighty warriors of renown, right? And they like violence and bloodshed. And I do have that article pulled up here of the ginger jihadis.
Mhm.
This is from 2014.
Yeah. And, you know, the real kind of background on this is Muhammad, the first Muslim, allegedly. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's how that works specifically, or if there was his first follower was the Muslim or what. But Muhammad, who kicked the whole thing off, is said to have had red hair.
Hmm.
Muhammad's wife was said to be blonde or reddish, blonde. So pretty interesting. Not the picture we get today of Muslim, is it? Or
Mm-mm.
of Islam. So,
No.
but yeah, let's read some of this.
So, dozens of young redheaded men and women are replacing the ritual bullying of the playground with the ritual structure. Oh man, strictures
Strictures, yeah, that's right.
of radical Islam, perhaps, at least according to some experts, as a result of the bullying and persecution they endure early in life.
He's joking. This is Milo writing this. He's joking. He's being he's being funny. He's like, yeah, redheads got bullied so much in the playground that they became Muslim. They
You've
became
you've likely already made the connection between ginger hair and homegrown Islamic radicals yourself, subconsciously, perhaps from newspaper reports showing carrot top wannabe jihadis from Bradford and TV clips of Auburn brothers in East London. What you probably don't know is just how vastly overrepresented redheads are in the ranks of Islamist converts. So, is he being like, is this a real thing, or is he being?
it is a real thing, but he's joking and he's taking jabs at them throughout. So, but
There,
it's true.
there are no surveys of jihadis, of course. The Quilium Foundation, a counter extremism organization, told us that no one keeps reliable data on white converts to Islamism. So news reports probably represent the best data set available to researchers. We sampled national newspaper coverage of white converts to radical Islam published between August 5th, 2013 and August 4th, 2014, excluding cases where there was no evidence of extremism or radicalization. For example, Lucy Valander, the ginger-haired territorial army private who had a sex change and became Britain's first transgender Muslim woman, is that real? Like, I don't like this guy's
Yes,
writing.
that
Is
was
that
real. That was
really?
real. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we discovered that 76% of white British converts to radical Islam had red hair. 76%. In the Daily Mail archive, 69% of white Brits lured into jihadism or the orbit of an extremist preacher were ginger. The number was similar for the Mirror and the Telegraph. The Guardian yielded a full 100% redhead rate for the stories we sampled. These are extraordinary numbers when you consider that in Northern and Western Europe, the average incidence of red hair in the general population is 5%. In other words, Islamic extremists reported on by the media are 15 times more likely than the general population to have red hair. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, unless you think there's a here he goes, Fleet Street conspiracy to single out and report on ginger jihadis that the Guardian is leading the charge, the data clearly demonstrate that white people who convert to radical Islam are overwhelmingly likely to be ginger. Of course, leading Muslims in public life and senior police officers have known about this for years, though they are understandably reluctant to discuss it in public until now. Fayaz Mughal, founder of Tell Mama, an advocacy organization that tracks Islamophobia, says for whatever reason, there does seem to be a number of people with ginger hair that are present in extremist activities. In no way do I suggest that the gene for ginger hair is a factor, but bizarre it is. I disagree with that one. I do think that the ginger hair gene is a factor. How I mentioned earlier about this wanting bloodshed and violence. I'm glad someone is finally tackling this thorny topic, says the director of a leading Muslim think tank who preferred to remain anonymous. I can remember having a conversation with a counterterrorism police officer in 2008 about this, and he claimed most of the converts he had dealt with are ginger. Another prominent Muslim in public life who appears regularly in the media adds, though there are no reliable statistics on this, ginger people do tend to be overrepresented in extremist circles. I'm starting to think, um, you remember seeing all those videos that came out like with they were super produced and they were just like blowing people up and all this other stuff. Uh, was there ever any redheads in those?
Um, I don't know, but there is this famous like ISIS documentary, and one of the main guys, he's not a convert, but this famous ISIS warlord did have red hair, and he was
I
famous, and he
Yeah,
blew himself up. He like suicide bombed himself at the end of the documentary.
as they do,
Um,
as they do. No, yeah, no, I gotta remember these are converts. These aren't actual
yeah.
like people from over there. So, hate preacher and Jem Chowdhury, founder of the band group Al, whatever that is, has assembled nothing short of a ginger cabal of supporters and proteges, including Richard Dart, who goes by the name Salahuddin, Paul Meller, who now calls himself Abdul Jibril, and Jordan Horner, known as Jamal Uddin. News reports, documentaries, and their own promotional YouTube videos reveal the tonsorial similarities between so many of Chowdhury's acolytes. Our data suggests that they are the rule and not the exception among white converts.
Yeah.
Uh, so, you want me to keep going?
No, I mean that's I think
We get
that
the point. Yeah.
yeah.
And this is 2013, 2014. Um, where are we at now as far as satirical essay? So is it real or not?
It is real, but they're joking. I mean, it's full of jokes.
Yeah. So, all right.
It's true. I mean, it's evident. Like all the documentaries or little articles I've seen about white guys from America joining ISIS, three of them were fucking redheads. Like
Mm-hmm.
two of
Um,
them, two of the most famous ones were redheads.
did you have any more slides? Because I want to bring up some notable mentions of redheads in history.
No, I'm all done. What do you got?
At least one of them,
Yeah.
which she was born on the same day as I, April 23rd.
Okay.
And this is interesting because we talked a little bit about witches, we talked about the occult, we talked about, some ideas of redheaded people, and Margie Cameron, which was Jack Parsons' second wife.
Mm.
She was the Scarlet Woman that he manifested in the desert with L. Ron Hubbard when they did the Babylon working ritual. She was the woman that allegedly manifested from that whole debacle. And it's interesting, she's a Scarlet when she's redheaded, and she's got an interesting history because when she was a there, I read her biography, and when she was like a kid, she was trying to summon the devil. She had like some sort of psychic powers, and she was tapped in. And this is a person that not only was she the Scarlet Woman that Jack Parsons, the famous Jack Parsons, summoned, but she was also, doing stuff with Kenneth Anger and a lot of these circles, these occult circles in Hollywood, which is directly tied into the whole Rosemary's Baby and that whole thing. So when I thought of redheads in the occult, 100% I thought about Marjorie Cameron, which she's a looker, isn't she? And she's
Ugh.
done a whole bunch of stuff. Oh wow, I didn't think about this. Have you seen that show? The the hell's it called? The one that
No.
it's a really good show. But anyways, yeah, Marjorie Cameron. I was gonna bring her up when we were talking about Mary Magdalene and all that stuff, but I just want to bring her up and talk about her. But yeah,
We probably
some
could have
other
talked. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we probably could have talked about Lilith too. Lilith
Yes.
isn't really in the Bible, but Lilith is frequently depicted with red hair.
Yeah, I had some other
Yeah.
stuff, but I think it's fine there.
Yeah. But Aleister Crowley's obsessed with the whole Scarlet Woman thing, and that kind of ties into Mary Magdalene, red hair, Lilith having red hair. But yeah, guys, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned something about red hair. And yeah, guys, go subscribe to Juan on Juan podcast if you haven't already. And I'll see you. I don't know if I'll see you on Saturday. I'll definitely see you on Tuesday. Go check out my Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean videos posting. It's going to be a 10, maybe 11-part series. So stay tuned to that in the video section. Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean. There's some red hair over there too. We could have talked about Barbarossa, the pirate, who had a Star of David for his pirate flag. Pretty interesting. But
what are we doing next week?
I don't know. We'll think about it.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah. Come up with something. All right, guys. Well, maybe we'll talk. We didn't talk about Rh negative blood at all.
Yeah,
really.
I think there's a lot, dude. There's a lot we didn't talk about.
We could have
I
talked
got the
about that.
chemical connection and all that stuff. So, yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. All right, guys. Everyone have a good night, and watch out for those redheads.
Yeah.
Peace.
Later.
Yeah. Wild Indian, yeah.
Hey V, line them up.
I'm a wild Indian, you know I go crazy. Ain't really Indian, that boy fugazi. I just keep it player, you can never play me. You got an ass so fat, girl, let's make a baby. And another one. Then I'm back to the trap, I'm trying to double some. She a bad woke chick and I love her tongue. We some jurisdiction boys, we some one-on-ones. Look, don't compare me to no Martin dog, I'm like Malcolm X. Die by our freedom, we'll leave a crack a stretch. Round of applause, boy, you know we clapping text. Chucky dog, child's play, yeah, nigga, that's what's next. Open up the cans just like Arizona. Pull up masked up like we got the Rona. We set up jurisdictions when we buy the corner. How you claiming that's your hood and you not the owner? Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't gotta lie about who we is, dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need to breathe? Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the shit.
Like my niggas said, bitch, we the shit. I can't keep the peace. If it pop off, then I want a piece. I'm just on release. I'm in go mode, motherfuck the thief. In these streets like EBT, when we at war, make peace with me. I don't give a damn, understand. Fuck who stole this land, white or black or tan. Understand, it's fuck who stole this land. Might have seen me get little buddy these hands. He wasn't no abo man. Now these dudes is Sambo man. They full of shit like my ammo can. What they call an N-word out the wrong mouth, that's an ambulance. Wild Indian, get it in advance, or you can post date it. Ask around, I'm the most hated. Straight sacred, they stole acreage. Go ape shit, show ain't shit. It won't be televised, I don't tape shit.
Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need the peace? beef. Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the sheep.